Honorable members, there will now be a moment of the opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Honorable member, does any member wish to give notice of a motion? Honorable Weth.
Honourable Chairperson, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to give notice that at the next sitting of the Council it notes that, firstly, despite large-scale violence against children, the Department of Social Development has failed to update the Child Protection Register and thereby is failing the children of South Africa. Secondly, this is the recent findings in a report by the Human Rights Commission, the HRC, which was released last week. Thirdly, Mr. Isaac Mangena, spokesperson for the Human Rights Commission, has started an investigation as a result of complaints received about this register. Last year, the department stated that there were 438 names on the register, but earlier this year, only 305 names could be traced. Lastly, experts in child protection and the welfare state that since the inception of the Child Protection Register in April 2012, it has been ineffective and not kept up to date. I so move.
Honorable Matila.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby give notice that in the next sitting of Council, I shall move that Council notes that the Democratic Alliance has once again thrown its toys out of the court, claiming that a decision of the Municipal Demarcation Board to create a new metro in Gauteng by merging Midvaal local municipality with other municipalities is politically motivated, whilst the DA is in fact not only attempting to sweep the findings of the public protector of gross maladministration and improper conduct by DA administration and certain of its office bearers in Midvaal municipality under the carpet, but is also attempting to disguise its desire to protect its political terrain in Midvaal, as it is the only municipality in Gauteng that the DA controls. Further notes that this once again demonstrates the DA's notion that what does not suit the DA is bad for the country, while the DA in fact fails to understand that the Demarcation Board is an independent authority established in terms of the Municipal Demarcation Act of 1998 to determine municipal boundaries in accordance with the Act and perform its functions impartially and without fear, favor or prejudice, and takes this opportunity to condone this cheap political play of the DA and calls on the DA to rather use its energy to bring representatives up to speed with the provisions of the relevant legislation and also to urgently implement remedial measures to address the maladministration and improper conduct, and also to implement the directives of the public protector in Midvaal. I so move, Chair.
Honorable de Villiers.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby give notice that I will move a notice of a motion in the next sitting of the House that 1. In Marabastad, Kroonstad, there are still 120 people who must share one unenclosed toilet which the provincial government did not address as per rules of national government and ruled by law. 2, it is also shocking that sewage flows out of a manhole into the streets and into the Vals River in Constantia. 3, these two service delivery failure to the community and South Africa is unacceptable and a disgrace. 4, the ANC government does not care to the good health and dignity of the poor and what polluted river can do to the environment of South Africa. And 5, I therefore request the House to debate service delivery and how it influences the status of people's wealth and health. I so move. I thank you.
Honorable members, does any member wish to move a motion without notice? Honorable Mokhobe.
I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with appreciation the news that it will be back to school for senior government managers. Further note that the senior managers in government will get comprehensive training on how to follow procedures when taking disciplinary steps against misbehaving civil servants. There was a growing evidence that civil servants were getting away with misconduct because some senior managers do not follow disciplinary policy and procedures. The situation is so bad. Commend government for taking such a step, which seeks to build the capacity of its civil servants and thereby improve service delivery to people. I so move.
Is there any objection to the motion? Motion agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I move without notice that the House notes with profound sadness and grief the passing away of Ethel Joseph on Saturday, the 19th of October, at the age of 87. Further notes that Ethel Joseph was the mother of Western Cape Delegate, Honorable Mr. Dennis Joseph. Further notes that the funeral will be this coming Saturday, the 26th of October at 9 o'clock in the United Reformed Church on the corner of 6th and Boundary Road in Retreat. And lastly, takes this opportunity to convey its heartfelt condolences to the family of Mr. Dennis Joseph and wishes him well and strength in these trying times. And I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mashile.
Thanks, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and sadness the news of the killing of the Director of Forensic Services at auditing firm Sizwe Nzaluba Gobodo, who was shot dead the last Friday morning at the company's head office in Houghton, Johannesburg. Further note that Mr. Lawrence Moepi, who worked closely with the Police Commercial Crime Unit, the now defunct Directorate of Special Operations, famously known as Scorpions, and as PricewaterhouseCoopers Forensic Services Director, is reported to have been followed to his workplace by men in a VW Golf and shot dead as he got out of his car. And take this opportunity to convey our sincere condolences to Mr. Moepi's family and friends during this difficult time, and call upon the investigating unit to work around the clock and bring the perpetrators of this barbaric act to book. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Manzini.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I rise to move a motion without notice that the Council notes that our own Finance Minister, Pravin Gordhan, has been named Sub-Saharan Africa Finance Minister of the Year. Also note that he was honored by Emerging Markets, a website specializing in economic and financial news. Further notes that Gordhan became Finance Minister in 2009 at the height of the global economic crisis. Also note that he has been praised by analysts, especially since South Africa is more exposed than other emerging markets to dangers stemming from the eventual pullback of quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Sibande.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes the Deputy Minister of Transport has officially launched the 2013 2014 phase of the National Hlogomela program in Johannesburg last week as part of Transport Month notes that this program is a joint campaign between the Road Accident Fund and the South African Taxi Council aimed at promoting road safety and responsible driving and behavior among taxi drivers, other road users, as well as passengers as pedestrians, and in particular to reduce road accident by ensuring that taxi drivers and road users comply with road safety rules, and by improving driver conduct and on the roads, welcomes this initiative and take this opportunity to call on all taxi drivers, other road users and role players, as well as the public to comply with all road rules and regulations, and to ensure that their vehicles and are roadworthy, and also to transform their minds and attitudes towards road safety and respect for each and other on the road. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? No, agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Freddie Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and sadness the brutal killing of a 15-year-old boy by a 17-year-old youth in an alleged satanic ritual in the area of Ravensmead, Cape Town. Further note that the decapitated body of Lee Heinrich Adams, 15, was found on Thursday evening in an abandoned building which was once Florida Primary School, while his head was discovered 2 days later, buried at the 17-year-old boy's home, about 1.5 kilometers from the school. Convey our sincere condolences to the family and friends of the deceased during this difficult time. Applaud the work done by the investigating officers so far, and call on them and all our people to work together in trying to root out this sickness in our communities, and also call on the provincial government to do something with all its buildings which are left unattended and across our communities. I so moved.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Kamete.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with appreciation the news of the official opening of an oil company in the Sekhukhune district in Limpopo province. Further note that this black woman-owned petroleum company called Acorn Oil was officially opened last week, Thursday, at Marble Hall by Minister of Public Enterprises, Honorable Malusi Kigaba. The company has won a 5-year contract worth than 1 billion to supply Eskom in the neighboring Mpumalanga province with specialized oil fuel. Also note that since it was established more than 10 years ago, this 100% black woman-owned company has created 30 permanent employment opportunities and owns 10 trucks. Applaud this great initiative by the black women of our country, which place them at the center of our economy. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mufke.
Thanks, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with utmost concern reports of dozens of police vehicles in the Western Cape that are gathering dust in workshops because of unpaid bills in respect of repairs to such vehicles, while many police stations are suffering a shortage of vehicles. Further news that the tender for the Western Cape to repair police vehicles was allegedly awarded to a Johannesburg-based company that has no workshops of its own in the Western Cape and has therefore contracted subcontractors to do the work. Further news that the internal disputes between the service provider and its subcontractors are allegedly the cause for the non-payment of invoices for repairs, and takes this opportunity to call on the Minister of Police to intervene as a matter of urgency and to ensure that remedial measures are implemented without delay. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Kekana.
I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and utmost concern that a long-term prisoner of Wellington Prison in Amtata in the Eastern Cape, convicted for murder, was recently found in possession of a firearm, ammunition and Okapi knives in his prison cell, while 3 other prisoners are allegedly also linked to these weapons. Notes that the firearm was found hidden in a box of Weet-Bix, while 5 rounds of ammunition were found in a packet of sugar and some Okapi knives in a chips packet. Calls on the Minister of Correctional Services and his department to investigate this incident as a matter of urgency and to lay appropriate criminal charges against all those involved or implicated in this shocking state of affairs, and also take appropriate disciplinary steps against officials involved, and further to immediately implement appropriate measures to prevent recurring of this state of affairs. I so move, Chair.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Chane.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that the Mpumalanga Health Department has recently suspended a multi-million rand contract after it was found that prescribed supply chain and procurement processes were not followed when the tender relating to the circumcision of 260,000 boys and men was awarded to a private company. Notes that the Council knows that the value of the contract would have been in excess of 180 million rand, while it is required that contracts over 500,000 rand are only to be awarded through a public competitive bidding process. Welcomes the decision by the department and takes this opportunity to call on the MEC for Health and the Provincial Department of Health to investigate the matter thoroughly as a matter of urgency and to take appropriate disciplinary steps against officials involved, and also to lay appropriate criminal charges against all who were involved and or were implicated in irregularities and of violating proper processes. I so move, Chair.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65. The last motion will be Honorable Makatla.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes the launch of the Bridge City Rail Link project by government in the KwaZulu-Natal province this coming Saturday, 26 October 2013. Further note that the rail link project, which will cost an estimated 1.3 billion rand, is part of government's multi-billion rand infrastructure rollout program. The 3.5 kilometers dual railway presidential lead project will cater for high volumes of commuters and integrate the public transport system in the Durban Metro. Will link the townships of Inanda, Ntuzuma, and KwaMashu north of Durban, and is regarded as the largest rail infrastructure development project in the Durban area. Commend government for speeding up the process of rolling out the infrastructure program, which seeks to deliver safe and reliable transport to all people. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, honorable members. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Consideration of Banks Amendment Bill B43B 2012, reprint, and of report of Select Committee on Finance thereon.
I now call upon the Honorable CJ Dibia.
Honorable Chairperson, the mission of the South African Reserve Bank Supervision Department is to promote the soundness of the banking system and to contribute to the financial stability. It is imperative that the regulation and supervision of banks are based on international standards and best practice. In order to facilitate the implementation of the Basel II agreement, both the Banks Act and the regulations were comprehensively amended during 2007, and the amendments became effective on the 1st of January 2008. During 2008, the Bank Supervision Division was subjected to and involved in a number of international assessments. One, a voluntary pilot project by the World Bank to assess the BSD implementation of Basel II, a scheduled financial sector assessment program by the World Bank and the IMF, as well as a scheduled assessment of South Africa's compliance with anti-monetary laundering and the combat of terrorist financing recommendations by the Financial Action Task Force. As a result of the ongoing global financial crisis and the requirements set by the Financial Stability Board at their various meetings during 2009 and 2011, the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision issued further prescriptions relating to the banking supervision in a document entitled Basel III. This was also revised again in 2011. The prescriptions relate mainly to strengthening of the global capital framework and liquidity standards for banks. These prescriptions have necessitated the insertion of a number of definitions contained in the Banks Act. The proposed amendments are a result of a process on the revision of the Banks Act since 2009, and the amendments are as follows: the cancellation of registration at request of the bank, amendment to Section 27 and Section 47, cancellation of registration, amendment to Section 23, speed to ally collapses, curatorships, amendment to Section 69, also amendments to Section 52 and Section 64C. The Select Committee on Finance, having considered and examined the Bank's Amendment Bill B34B of 2012, the National Assembly, reprint Section 75, referred to it and classified by the JTM as a Section 75 bill, agrees to the bill without amendments. Honourable Chairperson, I therefore move that the House adopt this bill. Thank you.
Honourable Member, that concludes the debate. I shall now put the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish to. Any political party that wish to do so? None. We will therefore proceed to voting on the question. Members will vote by pressing in favour, against, or abstain button. Voting has begun. Those who have a problem with voting, please, we're all voting, not heads of delegations. All of us are voting. It's a 75 bill. If you have a problem, just indicate to the staff to assist you. Let me remind the members again, all of us are voting. Special delegates, you are voting as well. Mr. Sibande, you've got a problem. All right, just indicate to me, how are you voting? In favor or against or abstain? In favor. Okay, I'll ask the staff to give me the results. Voting is closed. Thank you. 43 members voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75. Thank you very much. The Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Consideration of Criminal Law Forensic Procedure Amendment Bill B9B 2013 and of Report of Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development thereon.
I now call upon the Honourable Mufokeng.
Thanks, Chairperson.
The Criminal Law Forensic Procedure Amendment Bill was adopted by the National Assembly on the 22nd August and referred to the National Council of Provinces for consideration. At present, South Africa does not have a legal framework governing the collection, analysis, and use of deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA and the establishment of a national DNA database. The Criminal Law Forensic Procedure Amendment Bill is the culmination of the legislative processes that started with the introduction of legislation relating to fingerprints, body prints, photographic images that was passed by Parliament in 2010. It provides inter alia for the establishment, administration, and maintenance of national forensic DNA database to allow for comparative forensic DNA searches and the retention, storage, and destruction of DNA samples and forensic DNA profiles. The main features of the bill establishes a national DNA database containing 6 different categories of indices, including a crime scene index, arrestee index, convicted offender index, investigative index, elimination index, and the missing person and unidentified human remains index. The children sub-indices will be created for children. The bill seeks to align its provision relating to the taking of DNA samples and retention and removal of the DNA profiles of children with that of the Child Justice Act of 2008 to ensure that the rights of children are protected. DNA can only be taken with informed consent of a person or the parents of a minor, and the bill sets out timeframes for the removal of DNA profiles. After the consideration by the Select Committee, the committee proposes that the House approves the bill with the proposed amendments. I thank you.
That concludes the debate on the bill. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the bill, subject to the proposed amendments, be agreed to. The proposed amendments are on your table. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Is there any party that wish to do so? None. We will now proceed to the voting, and those in favor will press that button, and those against will also press that button, and those who are abstaining will press that button. The voting is commencing. All of us, it's a 75 bill. If you happen to have voted wrongly, it's time to correct your voting. The voting is closed. Could the table staff give me the results? Svande, you have a problem again. You voted, okay. How. You've forgotten to vote. Okay. 44 members voted in favor. I therefore declare this, the bill subject to proposed amendment agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the third order of the day.
Consideration of reports of Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development, mutual legal assistance between the Republic of South Africa and the Republic of Korea, and the extradition treaty between the Republic of South Africa and the Republic of Korea.
Let me just correct myself. The Secretary will read the third and the fourth orders of the day. You have already read the third, just read the fourth one. Have you read them both? Oh, okay, thank you. Honorable Mufokeng?
Thanks, Chairperson. In terms of Section 231 of the South African Constitution, an international agreement in the respect of which Parliament's approval is required only binds the Republic after it is approved by resolution in both the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. In terms of the extradition treaty between South Africa and the Republic of Korea, the extradition of a fugitive can only be requested if the offense in question is an offense in both countries and is punishable by a sentence of at least 1 year's imprisonment. The state from which extradition is requested can refuse such a request if the person is a national of the requested state, and proceedings must be instituted within the requesting state. The treaty has a number of articles setting out its scope, including an obligation to extradite when requested and subject to the provisions of this agreement. In terms of Article 2, extraditable offenses include those offenses which at the time of request were punishable under the laws of both parties. The article on mandatory grounds for refusal states that extradition will not be granted under the treaty if the requested party determined that the offense of which extradition was requested was a political offense or an offense connected with the political offense. In terms of Article 4, discretionary grounds for refusal of extradition includes grounds that the offense carries the death penalty under the law of the requesting party. After considering the treaties, the committee recommends that the National Council of Provinces approve the two treaties in order for South Africa to fulfill its obligation towards the Republic of Korea. Thank you very much.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put a question in respect of the third order. The question is that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. Any province that wish to do so? None. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I shall do so in alphabetic order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain button. Voting is commencing. Only the heads of delegation now. If you have a problem, just raise your hand. Mr. Chan has got a problem. Northwest and Limpopo and KZN. Where are the other service officers? All right, KZN, what are you voting? In favor? Limpopo? In favor? Northwest? In favor. All 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, I shall now put a question in respect of the fourth order, and the question is that the report be agreed in accordance to Rule 7.1. I'll first allow provinces an opportunity to make their declaration of votes, if they so wish. Is there any province that wish to do that? No, we shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do that in an alphabetic order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain buttons. Instead of calling you by your names, let's do the voting electronically. The voting has commenced. You can vote. Whilst members are voting, I just want to clear something here that has come to my table. Honorable Mufokeng, is it South Korea or North Korea? It's a question that comes to the table.
The Republic of Korea.
Is it the Republic of Korea?
Yes.
There are 2 Koreas.
Must be South.
The South? Is the South? Okay. All 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, the Secretary will read the 5th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development. Provisional suspension of Magistrate Ms. J.F. van Schalkwyk, Chief Magistrate at Kempton Park.
Honorable Mofokeng.
Thanks, Chair. The Select Committee, having considered the report of Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development on the provisional suspension of Magistrate J.F. van Schalkwyk, pending the outcome of an investigation into her fitness to hold the office as a magistrate, as required by Section 13, subsection 3B of the Magistrate Act, 1993, Act 90 of 1993, reports as follows. The acting Chief Magistrate and acting Cluster Head, Gauteng, lodged a formal complaint with the Magistrates Commission as regards the refusal of Magistrate van Schalkwyk's refusal to execute a lawful order. The tone of her written correspondence per email to the Chief Magistrate in this regard was derogatory, disrespectful, and insulting to both the Chief Magistrate and the Chief Justice. She furthermore distributed the said correspondence to all and sundry in the lower courts. She severely abuses her power as judicial officer, especially with reference to magistrates under her control by utilizing them inter alia for non-official purpose. That she requires magistrates under her control to attend to her personal matters. That she gambled during official hours and requested one of her magistrates to take her to Emperor's Palace one morning at approximately 10 o'clock. That she frequently borrows money from subordinates and that she does not always return the borrowed money. That she borrowed and received on a regular basis money from attorney Mr. Moloi, who deals with her court house in an official legal capacity. The committee, having considered the Magistrate Commission report and the Minister of Justice recommendation, the committee concurs with the Minister's provisional suspension and requests the House to confirm the suspension. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, that concludes the debate. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the report be agreed to. In accordance to Rule 71, I shall first accord the province the opportunity to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. Is there any province that wish to do so? No. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Voting has commenced. Only heads of delegates. Voting is concluded. I now have the results from the staff. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, honorable members. The Honorable Chief Whip, can I continue? We're now coming to the subject for debate. All right. We shall now continue. Okay. Maybe you'll be surprised why I was asking that question. Yeah, you're also surprised. It's because I didn't see a person in the House who should lead the debate. That's a reason why I asked the question. Okay. So I will adjourn the House for 5 minutes to allow the Deputy Minister to be here. Thank you.
Really? You will miss it? Yeah. Good job. Yeah. Okay. I got you first. You did come in, you sent me the documents and so what happened after? You contact.
appreciated that. Because I also sent them an email that I'm working on it. So they must actually find another. Just say to you, it's not viable, and you know where you stand.
No, I will always share. And I was expecting the train to fly down. But I'll try.
Because you already can talk to somebody.
Well, I'll send you.
Okay. sê, dan kan ons sê langer. Jy kan die hele huis gedaan. Vlees aan die kant. Jy weet, ek vind baie. Die deputy minister. Casa Blanca, vocês estão com a caixa esse é como That's Parliament in reverse. I will tell you something.
Okay. Be seated. Honorable members, the Deputy Minister is not available yet. He's still traveling. But I understand.
Here it is.
Here?
It's here.
So I will proceed. The first person then will have to be Honorable Mncube. Honorable, just hold on, ma. Honorable
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think you, as the presiding officer, owe the House an explanation of what's happening so that at least you apologize to the members as well, because everybody was so confused.
Honorable Chief Whip, that's the first thing I did. That's the first thing I gave an explanation as to why I will proceed and ask Mncube to be the first speaker. As soon as the speech and someone else reading that speech is going to take time, and there was a break prior, so I'm going to continue and ask Honorable Mncube to start, and when the speech is here, then the person who will read the speech will come. Continue.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Honorable members, allow me to first express the profound appreciation of the leadership and the people of Gauteng for this very important debate. Indeed, this debate is a remarkable demonstration and reaffirmation of the fundamental principle that lies at the heart of the mandate of the National Council of Provinces, which is to represent the interest of provinces. On behalf of Gauteng Provincial Delegation, I would like to express our profound appreciation and gratitude to the Chief Whip of the Council and the entire Whipari and the Presidium for ensuring that this debate finally takes place. I say this because today's debate was sponsored by the Gauteng Province. Honorable Deputy Chair, the origin of South Africa's economy has a strong association with mining, in particular gold mining, through the discovery of gold on the Witwatersrand in the now province of Gauteng in the late 1800s, recognized as the world's largest gold and uranium mining basins. The Witwatersrand facilitated the extraction of 43,500 tons of gold and 73,000 tons of uranium between 1953 and 1995. Almost 120 years, the mining sector remains one of the critical drivers of our economy. However, the recklessness of the apartheid state and its inability to develop a coherent mining policy to manage the future impact of mining in South Africa, our nation has been left with one of the most environmentally degraded countries in the world. In fact, mine waste, such as acidic mine drainage in many parts of Gauteng province, the legacy of mining continues to affect surface and groundwater resources long after mining operations have ceased. This is because some mining companies allow untreated acid mine water to flow into streams, dams, and sources of groundwater. The problem of acidic water drainage in Gauteng was exacerbated by the nature of the interconnectedness of the gold deposit in the Witwatersrand. In fact, when individual mines ceased operations, they stopped pumping, allowing their operations to flood. Owing to the interconnections, this water flooded until it reached several openings into neighboring mines, human settlement areas. As more mines closed, the burden of pumping water was carried by fewer and fewer mines until the last operating mine stopped pumping and the problem reached the crisis point that we witness today. A detailed study of acid mine drainage formation transport and impacts in the Witwatersrand, which was done by the Council of Geoscience on behalf of the Department of Mineral Resources, clearly show that if the issue of acidic water drainage is not addressed, it will not only create toxin environmental degradation, but also pose a major health hazard to our people and create water quality problems for the province. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, in response to the crisis of acidic water drainage, in August 2010, the Cabinet convened a special task team on acid mine drainage. Central to the concerns that were raised in the report of the task team was the fact that arising acidic mine water drainage within the mine voids will not only come into contact with surface water resources, but will also flow into down gradient areas via the groundwater conduits. This will be most pronounced in the dolomite PML rocks around Witwatersrand. The task team also pointed out that acidic mine water drainage is most likely going to result in decant of water and ecological degradation that could have negative impact on downstreams and water resource in the province. One of the pervasive concerns regarding acidic water drainage in the Witwatersrand is that it will largely affect South Africa's major river systems, and that the water pumped from the Witwatersrand mine voids, for an example, the water that is currently decanting from the Western Basin, the water that will decant from the Eastern Basin by Grootvlei mine is an important contributor to the salinity of the Crocodile and Vaal rivers system. It will also have far-reaching implications to the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, acid mine drainage has significant economic and environmental impacts owing to both the corrosive effects of acid water on the infrastructure and equipment, and the severe environmental impacts related to the low pH and high metal and salt loadings. It is for this reason that as the Gauteng province, we have reaffirmed our commitment to working with government to address the problem of acidic mine water drainage in the Gauteng province. We are committed to continue our efforts to working with the Department of Water and Environmental Affairs to ensure pollution prevention and explore other strategies to minimize the impact of acid water drainage, such as water reuse, reclamation, and treatment in the affected areas in the province. Honorable Deputy Minister, the South African mining industry is one of the most developed in the world and therefore has an important role to play in global acid mine drainage management. It is our view that the government should seek stringent measures of ensuring that mine companies put in place means to manage the ecological impact of their mining in our country. We must ensure that those who benefited from the current irresponsible mining exploration are held responsible or made to form part of the solution to minimize the long-term impact of acid water drainage in the province. In simple terms, the principle of the polluter of the environment or water paying should be put in place and enforced. Several studies have reaffirmed our concerns that unless water is pumped from the mines, it will eventually fill the voids to a point where water decants to the surface and result in highly toxic water sources and environmental degradation. We need to manage the water flooding and the potential impact to the quality of water resources, especially in the Witwatersrand area. Global experience has shown that there will not be a one single treatment method that can be used in every situation, and that appropriate treatment methods need to be selected from the range available for each mine water type encountered. We need to look at other active, passive, and pre-treatment means and technologies such as aeration, neutralization, which often includes metal precipitation, metals removal, chemical precipitation, membrane processes, ion exchange, and biological sulfate removal that have been proved very successful in other parts of the world. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, as the ANC, we have made it our responsibility to help all South Africans to have a safe and healthy environment. We are committed to ensuring that reckless use of our national resources never occurs in our watch. We shall stand on the mountaintops to speak against any company that show utter disregard of our environment and health of our people. We shall be the champion of the future generation. We shall ensure that our nation uses our environment in a careful and planned way so that all people, including the future generation, can benefit from it. I thank you.
I'll now call upon Honorable Sinclair.
Honorable Chairperson, acid mine drainage or acid rock drainage refers to the outflow of acidic water from usually abandoned metal mines or coal mines. The mining industry has been a significant driver of the country's economy, dating back more than a century. According to an environmental industry advisor, Sarah Dake, many of the mining houses that pioneered the industry in South Africa have moved on to other areas or have evolved into other companies or consortia. The Mining Weekly recently reported that out of the 120 mining companies that once mined in the Witwatersrand, only 6 remained. There are about 6,000 ownerless and abandoned mines, as well as about 270 tailing dams in the area containing almost 6 billion tons of pyrite, which is a catalyst for AMD. AMD production over the next couple of centuries is and will be a reality. In the context of the debate, I will support the viewpoint of Water Stewardship Council trustee, Dr. Anthony Turton. Turton states that progress in the rollout of technical solutions for AMD has been impaired by NGOs' activity relating to assigning liability. He further argues that in essence, NGOs have argued that the polluter pays principle must apply and have launched a range of legal actions to enforce this. This has now gone through various courts, and in general, the apportionment of liability has been a failure, as the cause of the problem is not current negligence by mining companies, but rather the historical failure of our pre-democratic government to put in place the relevant government structures that could ring-fence capital for rehabilitation and develop a viable closing strategy of mines. Honourable Chairperson, I share the viewpoint of Turton, and I disagree with the viewpoint of the Honourable Ngube that says that there's an urgent need to shift from blame-seeking to solution-seeking behaviour. We must find the answer to this challenge in the future and not in the past. And in terms of this context, Honourable Deputy Chairperson, Turton divides the potential treatment options for South Africa into two categories. The one is the legacy model, and the other is the public-private partnership model. The legacy model is based on the logic that society benefited from the century of mining, so that society is now also responsible for the historic externalization of cost. This model regards AMD as being a perpetual problem to be managed for the near infinity. The next model is the PPP, that is a manifestation of the lack of formal closing strategy to manage the transition to a post-mining economy. Therefore, a partnership should be negotiated with the rehabilitation companies capable of removing all surface tailings and thus realizing of almost 5,000 hectares of occupied land by residue areas for safe economic use. But, Honourable Chairperson, to achieve this, there must be a political will to accept and budget for the implementation of these proposals. In last year's national budget, Minister Pravin Gordhan set aside 433 million. This is not enough because almost 2.2 billion rand is needed to address that. This problem can only be addressed if role players stop finding culprits of the past and be innovative. The proposals of Dr. Turton can certainly go a long way in addressing this challenge. I thank you.
I'll now call upon Deputy Minister.
Speaker, thank you very much, and honourable members, let me start by apologizing for the inconvenience that was caused this morning. But just to lay the facts to the table is that the minister is not around, and I just learned now that we should come and participate in this topic, which is not a topic that is new to us. It's a matter that we deal with every day. And let me also take the opportunity to thank Gauteng for introducing this very important topic. The importance of this topic is that South Africa, as you know it, it's a mining country. The backbone of this economy has been mining over many years. We've mined for over 100 years, and over that 100 years, we've developed a lot of knowledge, expertise, and experience in mining. So in that experience that is so widely recognized as a mining destination, mining does matter to South Africa. Now also the profile of the minerals and the commodities that we have in South Africa, we are still confident of the future that we should not repeat the mistakes that we have committed in the past. Our profile of commodities is that South Africa today is still the richest country in the world when it comes to proven deposits underground and elsewhere. We have to date close to 2,000 operating mines and quarries in South Africa, just less than 2,000. And that's why it's important to know that mining since 2004, when we passed the MPRDA has grown from 900 to that 1.6, 1.7. And in terms of employment, we've also grown. The mining is at about the employment is about 506,000. So there has been growth in mining. So the MPRDA, which is the backbone and our law that governs the industry, has been very effective in economic development. Now, to continue to say what is this experience that we have in mining, it's important to know that whilst Gauteng as it is today has been out of the growth of gold and Kimberley out of the growth of diamonds, etc., we have moved from some single commodities to a point where we have over 50 commodities in this country that we're mining. We are still the #1 producer and a country that has got a huge deposit of manganese, when we can quote them where we're number one. That report is available for members to see that we still have a long way to go in mining. However, in mining, the good things that we're talking about, we must also recognize there is also the bad side of mining and also the ugly side of that mining. The bad side of that mining means that the environmental degradation that we have inherited, that we are busy trying to deal with over the decades of mining, suggests that our environment is polluted heavily. Acid mine drainage is just one of those. The others, we can talk about the rest of the landscape that has changed in mining, in small communities, in municipalities that are not able to have access to land because the land was destroyed by mining. That is the burden that lies with us as the democratic government to ensure that we rehabilitate the environment. The rehabilitation of the environment is going to take a lot of money. We have done preliminary research to say how much it will cost, and it goes into the billions. The Treasury does not give enough money for us to do rehabilitation as we want to do it. So the Council for Geoscience and Mintech are busy with rehabilitation of ownerless and derelict mines, as Honorable St. Clair has alluded to. I won't go to the bad side of mining. The ugly side of mining has got to do with mine health and safety. Where we look into the statistics, although out of the Mine Health and Safety Act, we see that the statistics of accidents and fatalities in the mines have gone down dramatically, but we still say that life is very important. If you take a mine worker underground, they must come back alive. The statistics that we have given over to Parliament in terms of the reduction and the number of people who still die in mines are there for you to see. Now, what is this acid mine drainage? As it said here, especially particularly the two provinces, one of the provinces, thank you for the speech, one of the provinces is Gauteng and the other one is Mpumalanga, where we've got this problem of acid mine drainage. Through the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, TCTA, government is trying to manage this acid mine drainage. One of the ways of doing it is to ensure that during rainy seasons like we are going to have now, we build some canals like the Florida Canal that is able to divert water not to get into those shafts that are open. The second one is where there is ingress, where is decanting, where this polluted water is getting out, you are able to treat the water before you release that water into the river streams. So that is taking place, and there have been a lot of concern raised, experience that we have of the past, and also to try and ensure that we don't repeat the mistakes. Consistent and systematic, that now on the 1st of May, 2014, the 10 years of transformation with and adhered to. There we have spelled out exactly the issue is dealt with by the Deputy President of the country, but one of the degradation of mining that we have seen as a damage to our ecology, our economy, and to people. We've got 1.2 million ex-mine workers who are all over South Africa because to ensure that we don't forget the human side of this damage that was done. Those are not...
Honorable MJR de Villiers.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. I just want to tell you that on behalf of Honorable Elsa van Lingen, I'm actually partaking in this debate because her flight was delayed also today. Chairperson, honorable members, as you all know, South Africa has vast mineral resources, and the wealth created through the industry has funded the development of the country. We are only now beginning to grasp the environmental impact this industry has had since 1896. However, and will continue.
I don't know whether this House is being misled, because in a committee meeting this morning, we were told that Honorable van Lingen is busy somewhere in the Eastern Cape. And now Honorable de Villiers says it's delayed by the flight.
Okay, members.
You will
let
address
me, let
that.
me direct my question to Honorable de Villiers. What's happening?
She was actually attend this morning to a situation and then after left.
So can you
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chair.
withdraw your statement?
No,
of
I
being
won't.
late?
It is my statement is correct. She was delayed. She was delayed. But can I carry on?
If you so wish.
The impact of climate change, industrial expansion, and large-scale pollution, particularly acid mine drainage, poses a huge risk to our collective security and well-being, as the irreparable damage to our ground will lead to depleted resources in the near future. The biggest challenge with acid mine drainage is the unknown. To fully prevent the problem, we must be able to quantify it. In a report published by the Inter-Ministerial Committee in 2012, there was still a problem to quantify the problem. AMD research must be done per region to fully understand the problem. This means expanding from the current focus of Witwatersrand and the Vaal Triangle to include Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KZN. Getting mines to contribute financially is of paramount importance. The current Mineral Petroleum Research Development Act, together with General Notice 257 of 2005, provide methodology which allows for financial estimation of the closure quantum to be provided by a mine. Until very recently, very little in rehabilitation has been required. Thus, the problem lies largely with historical mines when pollution was not policed. The fact that water is treated as a side issue when it comes to water use licenses indicates that there is significant weaknesses in the Water Act. The Act must protect water as a source of life from greed and reckless development, especially when taxpayers may end up paying the bill of an estimated 2.2 billion rand short-term solution to AMD. The fact that even the National Development Plan is vague on water governance leading to 2030 calls for urgent intervention. Department of Mineral Resources and Department of Water Affairs have converging competencies on AMD, mining licenses, and water licenses. This fragmentation of responsibilities results in the divergence of funds in addition to unwanted competition between the departments. It is a disincentive to investment in mining in South Africa. Government should place all mining and mining-related responsibilities in one department, so that one department is responsible for all mining activities, including AMD. It is thus reasonable to demand to know what the cost of sustainable solutions would be and who is going to pay for it. We urgently need research into the matter, which should involve an opportunity for novel ideas, always bearing in mind that the process we use should not produce its own negative impact on the environment. Calculating the cost should thus include calculating the potential environmental impact. AMD is actually threatening our heritage and our future if not properly addressed. And I just want to say that select committee issues must stay there and not come to this house. Thank you very much.
I'll call upon Honorable Mohoro.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman, veteran. Deputy Minister, thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I am not.
Honorable Mohoro, just hold on for a second. Honorable Sinclair.
Chairperson, just on a point of order, I'm very confused. The honourable member addressed you as chairman.
What's wrong?
Honorable
Please
Sinclair,
What's wrong?
can we save time?
He addressed you as
Please, can we save time? Can you take your seat?
Thank you.
Honorable Mohoro, continue.
Thank you, Chair. South Africa is on the verge of completing the 2 decades in its democracy with the acceleration of the program to improve the quality of life of all the people. As we are in this long journey to a prosperous and safe society, the occurrences of diseases and sicknesses such as asbestosis, related diseases in the Northern Cape province resulting from mine waste and acid mine drainage threatened the promised fear-free life as per the Freedom Charter and in our rich constitution. A variety of waste are generated and disposed of in the provinces, including municipal waste, agricultural, agro-processing, mining waste, and nuclear waste. Given this variety, equally varied approaches and appropriate competencies are required to manage the different type of waste and address the proper storage, handling, and disposal of the environmentally hazardous material. A need for greater environment awareness and raising of awareness related to environment legislation is important so as to part of initiative to address these challenges. Chairperson, as the government of the people, for the people, by the people, we align ourselves to Section 24B of our Constitution, which states that all South Africans have a constitutional right to an environment that is not harmful to their health and well-being, and to have the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations. Based on these lessons of the past years in our democracy and the electoral mandate of the ANC, 5 strategic priorities has been identified for the term 2009 to 2014. Those include the building of the developmental state that is effective, efficient, and prosperous, accelerating delivery and supporting the vulnerable, fostering development partnership, social cohesion, and community mobilization. This brings the basis for, as a caring government, to challenge every nation loving South African citizens to contribute in finding a lasting and cost-effective solution to acid mine drainage. Honorable members, the basic political pillar of the post-1994 democratic state is that of a people-centered and people-driven government. This is informed by the principle of working with citizens and communities. Hence, solutions must be everybody's responsibility. We as members of parliament need to appreciate that an investment in protecting the environment by effectively managing mine waste will also result in a long-term saving on health cases. Against this background, the respective departments working together are expected to enforce compliance with a growing number of environmental laws with dwindling financial and personal resources. On environment, we want our rich environmental and natural resources endowed not only to benefit us, but also our children and children's in the future. Getting guidance from the National Development Plan, we are working through the South African National Biodiversity Institute to spearheading an innovative program of work and ecological infrastructure, analysis and costing of our natural capital. This body of knowledge will empower us to make informed development-related decisions. The National Waste Management Strategy continue to contribute to the creation of a varied industries that are deliberately structured to deliver sustainable livelihoods. It is worth noting that provinces and municipalities are tuned with the development of their integrated waste management plans to ensure that the planning around provision and management of waste complies with the requirement of the Waste Act. The successful integration of the water use and waste licenses for waste disposal facilities is an example of successful integration of the licensing processes. There is a need to continue with the project of reducing the number of unlicensed waste disposal sites. The department concerned should be encouraged in the establishment of the norms and standards for the remediation of contaminated land, storage of waste, flaring of landfill gas, and waste classification and management regulation. To deal with acid mine drainage, our government has improvised some immediate solution to stop the uncontrollable decant, the upgrading of the uranium plant and the construction of a pump station and new water treatment plants has been effected. Where's my other? Oh, yeah. This will ensure the environmental critical level is not breached. If in all this, the commitment of our government to a safer and healthy society proves to be helpful. Our government has executed the implementation process of the National Waste Management Strategy for sustainable development in terms of the white paper policy on integrated pollution and waste management for South Africa. The strategy presents a long-term plan for addressing key issues, needs and problems experienced with waste management in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, as a national agenda, there needs to be a collective effort by all South Africans to find a long-term solution to the acid mine drainage crisis. A call is made to all South African experts, community members, women and children. Let's all focus on solution. Everyone has a solution. The government has opened up processes to listen. Let's focus on what we should do as a collective. We cannot say that everybody has the perfect solution, but we will try to find something holistically. I think you will agree with a better South Africa means a better Africa and in turn a better world. I thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much.
I'll now call upon Honorable Ntombela.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Honorable Deputy Minister, distinguished members of the NCOP. I'm here on behalf of Kempton representing the MEC for Economic Development and Tourism could not be there here today. We are told that, Madam Chair, a drop of oil could contaminate large volumes of one of the most scarce resources on earth, water, which, as we all know, water is not just a simple commodity, but denotes life for all living organisms, including ourselves, human beings. It is that reason that nations across the world fiercely secure their waters as precious possessions to ensure their sustainable livelihood and for preservation for future generations. South Africa is a semi-arid country with limited water reservoirs, and as we are not endowed with massive downpours, as the case with the equatorial regions such as the Great Lakes in DRC in our own continent and the Amazon forest in Brazil. Unless we construct facilities like dams and private reservoirs to store water for both domestic and industrial purposes, we are often expected to scramble for groundwater which is not reliable, available, especially during dry seasons. The very scarce groundwater is being threatened by contamination from acid mine drainage, as we all know that in spite of other material shortcomings, this country is among the leading mining nations in the world. The untreated water flowing, especially from disused mines, finds its way to surface water that is often used for human consumption and other business operations, including farming. Having acknowledged the significance of water for human survival and economic development, has become a common challenge for all of us to find collective solutions amid the need to promote growth in our mining sector, which has been the country's lifeblood for more than 150 years, generating 1.4 million jobs while having multiplier effects on other sectors of our economy. We are told that mining contributes an estimated 447 billion to the nation's gross domestic product, while making direct corporate taxation of around 25.8 billion to state coffers. Besides these, mining organizations also play a major role in the socio-economic transformation of many of communities, as in 2011, for instance, mining contributed 1.3 billion towards social investment programs, though there are still concerns that some companies are failing to appreciate the importance of corporate investment to empower communities in the vicinity of their operations. In KwaZulu-Natal, we've acknowledged the partnership between government and mining houses in addressing critical socio-economic challenges facing our communities, with the alluvial or sand mining giants, Richards Bay Minerals and Exaro, on the North Coast playing their part in the province's economic progress. Frankly speaking, mining continues to be South Africa's major industrialization factor, as it has a butterfly effect which generates growth in other sectors of the economy, while also serving as the largest source of our energy. Electricity that fuels our overall economy is still derived from mining. Coal, which provides almost 94% of the country's energy supply. We know that efforts are made to develop alternative, clean, environmental friendly energy sources, such as wind and solar power, but in the meantime, coal is our driving force. However, while we appreciate the impact of mining on the nation's socio-economic trajectory, we are equally mindful of the damages that this sector is inflicting on the socio-economic profile of our people, especially through uncontrolled acid mine drainage that could pollute large quantities of our water system, threatening the health of human beings, animals, and of course, other creatures in the ecosystem. Moreover, in the interface between contaminated underground water and surface usable supplies would have detrimental effect in the whole industrial value chain, as all business operations rely on water, and more importantly, the agricultural business which uses water drawn from various sources, including groundwater and dams, is already impacted, as often we are informed that certain animals die and plants destroyed because of suspected exposure to polluted water. With acid mine water featuring dreadful elements such as high salt levels, lower pH, and high level of sulfite minerals emanating from heavy metals, it could adversely affect the life of all living organisms. The refilling of water tunnel in the disused mines with water certainly result in free seepage of contaminated water into the surface, where it interacts with consumable water in the rivers, streams, and dams, as well as boreholes that provide highly needed groundwater supplies, especially in the poverty-stricken rural communities and indeed farming settlements. The resultant poor water quality leads to numerous ailments that compromise productivity, as sick residents couldn't be expected to pursue effective work, as we have seen the repercussions of reckless asbestos mining in the Northern Cape. Sadly, rivers know no national borders, hence acid mine drainage water could also spill to other neighboring countries, which could have serious diplomatic, socio-economic, and health implications for the region. As we are concerned about the negative effect on the economy in general, however, the most immediate danger is the collapse in the agricultural sector, as the human beings couldn't be expected to continue exposing themselves to food supplies that have potential to harm them, Hence, the country's food security would be inevitably compromised. Farmers are already raising concern that unless we put in place tangible mitigation actions to reduce or even delete the consequences of acid mine drainage in our water mains, both domestic and export markets for agricultural products would be severely affected, as we realized the international response when we had foot and mouth disease epidemic in recent years. Coming from a province that has a substantial farming industry which is located side by side with mines, especially coal mining in the Midland towns of Dundee, Newcastle, Vryheid, and Hartingsprite, KwaZulu-Natal shares the same sentiments with the rest of the nation with respect to this new threat to our national health and industrialization. In view that the province is currently positioning itself as an active participant in the nation's effort to attract investment to various sectors of the economy, we are worried that the issue of acid mine water would become a major impediment to potential investors who have to be assured of quality water supplies for both human and industrial consumption. This implies that while we value mining as a strategic growth industry in our country, we have to be mindful that it doesn't dent our investment prospects, especially with respect to industries that have a long-term and sustainable presence in our economy, such as tourism and other service businesses. There has been debate about possible interventions that could assist in protecting our water system from the rigors of acid mine drainage, and such mitigation factors should be seen in light of serving the national interest rather than being positioned and perceived as punitive measures that could discourage mining altogether. There are mining houses that are equally concerned about environmental sensitivities related to mining that are prepared to join forces with the government to develop effective solutions. I made the report that there are some operations that are only worried about making quick profits who are less concerned about the aftermath of their mining. It's therefore essential that we isolate the two kinds of role players and work closely with the former while considering appropriate penalties against reckless offenders. We require to put in place commercially and environmentally sustainable and viable solutions that would address the level and varied chemical composition contained in the acid mine water. We are aware of suggested interventions in the past, which included heavy taxation of mining organizations to raise funds to develop new technologies that could be used to reduce acid level in water or that can cleanse water of any impurities related to acid mine drainage. We are therefore pleased to note that scientists have already initiated processes to research practical and effective methods to address this challenge, as we are informed that the CSIR was working on the development of treatment facilities designed to neutralize or remove metal and sulfate compounds from acid mine drainage using non-toxic chemical elements. Though imposing penalties on offending mining houses could be deterrents, but long-term solutions could be secured through the development of environmental-friendly technologies to rescue contaminated water. This would be essential in the protection of human beings, plants, and animals from exposure to acid mine water, as well as assuring investors that our water is of quality. With KwaZulu-Natal having several coal mines that could be contributing to acid mine water problem, we could learn from other coal mining regions, such as Witbank in Mpumalanga, where Emalahleni Water Reclamation Plan was established to purify water from acid mine drainage for human consumption and other uses. This is a product of social partners involving private sector organizations, such as mining giants, BHP, Billiton, and Anglo Coal, and as well as government. Certainly, this is a demonstration that in some instances, mining businesses don't need to be forced to do the right things. All should be based on their consciousness about the need to engage in harmless business ventures for sustainable development. We are fully supportive of government injection of around 433 million towards addressing the acid mine drainage contamination, especially in Gauteng, and we believe this intervention would be a strong foundation to build on a solid pedestal for both the state and industry to develop long-term solutions such as permanent water treatment plants that could purify pumped water from deep mine tunnels to reduce its negative effect to the ground and surface water system. If companies take initiative in addressing this problem without coercion, since it's also in their interest to run clean enterprises, we might be spared the effort of having to legislate punitive measures that could be difficult to police. We know that the current situation is not in the main related.
Can you conclude?
Yes. We know that the situation is not related to all private mining companies. Most of the organizations created acid mine drainage problems had since ceased mining, and it has become our collective responsibility as a nation, especially as government and current mining ventures, to identify solutions to deal with these issues. As KwaZulu-Natal believe together with mining companies, we can make an attractive and responsible industrial activity that encourages a positive legacy to be bequeathed to our people rather than inheriting dangerous contaminated water supplies. I thank you.
I'll now call upon Jose.
The deputy safely under control, close quotation, he just said just now. And we understand the seriousness and importance. The mining sector has played a paramount role in the socio-economic growth and development of the coming house's financial sustenance. And the ultimate concern is therefore the sustainability of these businesses and the upliftment of our people. By large and small mining corporations in the country. And as such, these mining activities produce adherence by protecting and conserving quality of natural assets such as ISO 14001 regarding the environment be followed, including the management. Technical guidance on the development, operation, and monitoring of waste disposal sites is provided through government minimum requirements. These requirements are outlined in the related document on waste management series published by the Department of Water Affairs and Forestry in the second edition of 1998. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, as the debate rests upon compliance, adopting good practices, accountability, planning, and sustainability of the future, I hope we will do justice to these elements to ensure that there is sustainability and balance in development and protection of creation. The legislation is pivotal too. Therefore, preventing a cumbersome and inevitable costly process of sorting the waste later, especially if the hazardous and non-hazardous waste are mixed, our natural water streams will also be protected. Another advantage is that there will be efficiency and evading unnecessary costs that may be incurred as a result of ineffective waste management system and from lawsuits or cost litigations and revocation of operating licenses. Our participation in this discourse as Limpopo is that we ensure that the people live comfortable, ensuring development of the country, economy, and cooperatives in mining, maintaining profitable while taking vicarious care of environment. For the set to be realized in our responsibility to conduct oversight on the mines and improve prevailing legislations and developing new ones. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, considering that the mines in South Africa are great players in the global markets suggests that there is a concurrent caution and sensitivity activity that should be acquired in their governance. It is by virtue that consultation of experts and empowerment be necessitated in the implementation of laws during production until the end of the process of production and to ascertain positive outcomes. In conclusion, Honorable Chairperson, I therefore recommend continuation of certifying rehabilitation of the mining lands after the closing, employ of advanced technology to minimize environmental damage, effective waste management, recycling of the waste produced, and maintaining to have an office of the environmental specialist in all mines. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson.
I'll call upon Honorable Maya Tulakoza, MEC for Agriculture.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Deputy Chairperson of NCOP, Honorable Members, Honorable Deputy Minister. I really would like to thank you for inviting us to be part of this very, very important debate. I also want to express my appreciation to the Gauteng delegation for initiating this very important debate today. I'm therefore here really representing the Premier of Gauteng and the Executive Council of Gauteng. It is indeed a privilege to be part of this debate on mine waste management with the title, and I quote, "Finding a Lasting and Cost-Effective Solution to Acid Mine Drainage." Honorable Chair, I'm certain we are all aware that indeed AMD is a challenging matter which has been in the media spotlight in recent years. As a result, our government has seen it fit to dedicate this debate to this topical issue and draw much needed awareness to this challenge of the AMD, which is not limited to our water resources, as it also impacts our environment, our health, as well as our infrastructure in our communities. Honorable Deputy Chair, the AMD problem is indeed the issue of mining legacy, as it has been explained earlier on, a challenge which is very complex, but which requires solutions. And we also believe that the solutions are highly expensive and are of multifaceted technical nature. The release of contaminated mining water into our rivers has been affecting water quality in both surface and groundwater for almost 100 years since mining activities started in the region. I thought I should just also very quickly share with the Honorable Chair and members on the progress that has been done so far. And perhaps before I do that, let me just quote from the Constitution, which says, "Environmental stresses and patterns of economic development are linked to one another. The agricultural policies may lie at the root of land, water, and forest degradation. Energy policies are associated with global greenhouse effect, with acidification, and with deforestation for fuel wood in many developing nations. These stresses all threaten economic development in our country. Thus, economics and ecology must be completely integrated in decision-making processes, not just to protect the environment, but also to protect and promote sustainable development in our country. Economy is not just about production of wealth, as we have seen 100 years ago, and ecology is not just about protection of nature. These are both equally relevant for improving the lot of lives of our humankind. Let me just share with the honorable members some progress that has been made And I want to indeed agree with the Deputy Minister that the situation is safely under control. And we want to appreciate the interministerial committee that has been spoken about that has actually set an immediate solution to this challenge. At the Western Basin in Gauteng, Honorable Deputy Chair, there has been immediate solution to the problem, but there is also future interventions. Currently, the Department of Water Affairs indeed contracted TCTA, who then commissioned immediate solution, which employs neutralization to treat the acid mine water. Currently, 33 megaliters of acid mine water has been neutralized on a daily basis and is discharged to the environment. Since August 2012, no untreated acid mine drainage water has been reaching our environment. All the water that has been reaching our environment is the water that has now been neutralized and treated. The immediate solution is adequately dealing with the winter low flow rates, but this may be compromised with the onset of the wet season. During September, measurements were taken, and the water level at this Western Basin was measured to be approximately 3 meters from surface decant. The long-term solution will address salinity loading on the water resources. The solution will also see treatment of mine water for beneficial use for potable water by our people, but also for industrial water use by the agricultural sector as well as the mining sector itself. The target for this long-term solution is about 2016. We then have in Gauteng what we call the Central Basin as well. And here, due to minimal underground mining at the Central Basin, there is no active dewatering. Currently, there is civil works that is happening to construct a pump station, and this is work done by TCTA to prepare for the neutralization as well. And this work of civil works is nearing completion. The projected commissioning date is 14 November 2014 to protect the environment. The project will treat 57 megaliters of acid mine drainage water on a daily basis for discharge into Elsberg-Spruit. This intervention will protect aquifers from being contaminated with acid mine drainage water and will also offer other protection associated with underground acid mine drainage water. Water levels at the Central Basin was measured in September 2013 and was found to be 192 meters from the surface. Again, the matter is safely under control. Gold Reef City included is, as we speak, safe. On the Eastern Basin, also this basin, because there is actually minimal underground mining, there is no active dewatering, just like at the Central Basin. There is also here construction of the pumping plant, which is projected to commence in November, just a few days from now, 2013. The water level at the Eastern Basin was also measured and was found to be 385 meters from surface. This was measured at Grootvlei number 4 on the 10th of September 2013. Again, Honorable Chair, the matter is safely under control. The interministerial task team led by the Minister has therefore commissioned a long-term research into this matter to ensure sustainable solutions, to ensure sustainable resolution of the AMD. And this long-term study has now been completed, I'm informed, in February 13, and a draft report is already available. The study contained environmental, social, economic, legal, institutional, and technical components. As the study is dealt with an issue with cuts across various mandates, there is an interdepartmental committee where each sector will have a role to play in bringing their specific expertise to the table. In order to gain a broad range of inputs, the study consulted key stakeholder groups and various additional specialists in the field of AMD through focused meetings. On economic focus, the economic analysis provides a detailed cost-benefit analysis looking at different scenarios relating to the handling of AMD problem. The cost-benefit analysis covers different options, such as 1, do-nothing scenario, which we do not opt for, or 2, an investment scenario, which as government we have chosen. Furthermore, the cost-benefit analysis examines the benefits and cost of allocating responsibility for the scenarios to both the public and private sectors. The economic analysis provides a quantified set of costs and benefits, which, wherever possible, feeds into the financial model. The financial focus itself, Honourable Deputies Chair, it is anticipated that any solution to the problem requires indeed massive investment. The financial analysis must inform the quantum of the investment. A financial model that takes into account the full life cycle costing of all the investments required will be developed. The financial model must incorporate scenarios of public and private sector investment, as well as examining the potential revenue sources, if any, that can be derived from the investment. Where possible, the actual costs and benefits as identified by the cost-benefit analysis will be included in the financial model. The study team will consider strategies for identification, quantification, and mitigation of risks that must affect the project and incorporate these in the financial model. We must also reiterate the ANC's position that as well as the interministerial position that the financial model must also take into consideration the polluter pays principle, because many of the miners in the past, ran away with the wealth. On the technical focus, in conclusion, Madam Chair, the key stakeholders have indeed been engaged throughout the study, and measures are in place to effectively communicate progress. It is expected that the feasibility study indeed will be followed by a formal environmental impact assessment. A feasible solution will be one that is technically sound, environmentally sustainable, economically viable, institutionally feasible, and legally acceptable. The Gauteng province, we are deeply involved in the intergovernmental task team, a team of expert government officials which are tasked with the day-to-day engagement on AMD. We have also undertaken awareness campaigns in the communities of all these places, emphasizing on the West Rand area to conscientize our people on what AMD is all about and the work that government is doing in dealing with it. Once more, the matter is safely under control. I thank you.
Honorable Makunyane.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Chair, it's an honor for us to participate in this important debate on our ongoing effort to find lasting and cost-effective solutions to acid mine drainage and other related consequences of mining. Honorable Chair, up front we need to point out that these solutions also need to take into account the interests of local communities and those of future generations. They must be sustainable, intra-generationally, and intergenerationally. Secondly, we have to note that mining corporations, like all other corporations, do not have a conscience, nor do they know any morality. As Joel Bakan writes in his book, The Corporation can neither recognize nor act upon moral reasons to refrain from harming others. Nothing in its legal makeup limits what it can do to others in pursuit of its selfish ends. And it is compelled to cause harm when the benefits of doing so outweigh the costs. Only pragmatic concern for its own interests and the laws of the land constrain the corporation's predatory instincts, and often that is not enough to stop it from destroying lives, damaging communities, and endangering the planet as a whole. It is therefore important that when we look for solutions, the interests of the greater society and especially those of affected communities, have, have to be weighed against those of corporate profits. Honorable Chair, acid mine drainage occurs when oxygen-rich rainwater seeps into mine cavities and extensively fragmented rock mass to react with pyrites to produce sulfuric acid. This acid water can contaminate surface water, killing off fish and other aquatic life, destroying important ecosystems and causing such water to be unfit for human consumption. Mine tailings also contain other heavy metals, including arsenic, cadmium, cobalt, and mercury, some of which are carcinogenic or highly toxic. Although pyrite is a common minor constituent in many mineral deposits and is associated with our coal and the gold deposit of the Witwatersrand Basin, not all of South Africa's mineral deposits are afflicted by acid production. Diamond, iron, manganese, chrome, and vanadium mines do not generate acid-producing waste, and the majority of our platinum mines also seem to be free of this problem. Many coal mines in the Emalahleni Middleburg area lie abandoned. Some are on fire, some have collapsed, and most are decanting acidic water into the environment. The water is entering the tributaries of the Oliphant River, where it is slowly neutralized. However, the water remains highly saline, and sulfate concentrations are particularly elevated, as can be observed from the rising salinity and sulfate concentration of the water in the Middleburg and Emalahleni dams. The problem becomes worse during dry periods and improves somewhat during wet periods, but the general trend is one of steadily increasing salinity and sulfate concentration. The quality of local water is so poor that Eskom imports water from the eastern escarpment for use in the power stations in the Emalahleni Middleburg area. We are all part of a very large life support system, which is our planet. If you damage one part of this system, the consequences may appear somewhere else in the system years from now. Ultimately, pyrite in the rocks in these mining areas will be fully oxidized and AMD will cease. But what are the consequences of the damage that has been caused up to then? There is no indication as to how long this will take, but the problem is likely to persist for centuries rather than decades. Honorable Chair, the situation in the Oliphant River catchment continues to deteriorate. Attempts were made to install a treatment plant in the particularly heavily polluted Brugspruit area near Emalahleni, but this has been of limited efficacy. Its main function was to address the pH problem, that is acidity, and it has no effect on the salinity of the water. The Emalahleni water reclamation plant, based on reverse osmosis, has been commissioned in the area and has demonstrated that it is possible to treat badly polluted water to drinking quality standards. But the cost of the water is about 3 times that of water delivered to the area from the Vaal River. This technology can only be used on a limited scale. It cannot be used to improve the general state of polluted rivers in the area. The water quality of the Oliphant River will therefore continue to deteriorate in the foreseeable future. South Africa is well endowed with vast mineral resources, and the wealth created through mining, particularly gold mining, has funded the development of the country. However, we are now beginning to grasp the environmental damage that particularly the gold mining industry has caused and will continue to cause in the decades to come. The longer-term impacts of especially the gold mining industry are likely to be far more severe in South Africa than in other countries because of our unique combination of geography, climate, population distribution, scale of deposits, and of course, because of our history. We must learn from these experiences, especially in respect of coal mining, and carefully examine the wisdom of allowing further coal mining in the catchment of rivers draining the eastern escarpment. New mines should probably not be permitted in these areas until such time as an economically viable method has been found, either to prevent pollution or to clean up the pollution that will inevitably be produced. As yet, none have been devised that can operate on the scale required for our gold and coal mining industries. So what can be done about the problem? Stopping the source of the flow of acid water is just one very small part of a very big problem. Much of the damage has already been done, and there quite simply is no magical method to fix some of the damage. In the case of the problems in the West Rand Basin, the Wonderfontein Spruit, Robinson Dam, Tudor Dam, and the Tuelopi Spruit, much of the heavy metal pollution includes uranium contamination of the water system. Uranium stays radioactive for thousands and thousands of years. Chairperson, another mining-related health hazard needs to be mentioned. South Africa is the third largest exporter of asbestos in the world for more than a century. Former workers and residents of mining regions suffered and continue to suffer from a serious yet still largely undocumented burden of asbestos-related disease. Jobs or health? This was the choice workers unknowingly made when they first began to mine the rich deposit of asbestos in South Africa during the late 19th century. For asbestos workers and communities around the mines, the hidden cost of exploitative work practices and mining operations is their health. What is striking to any visitor to the asbestos mining regions in the Northern Cape, Limpopo, or Mpumalanga provinces is the sheer number of people who suffer from asbestos-related diseases, including mesothelioma, many of whom never worked in the mines. A rare form of lung cancer among men and women in their 30s and 40s is not uncommon. Virtually every resident has a relative or friend who is sick or who has died from the effects of asbestos. Of critical importance is that compensation to workers is minimal, which reflects the fact that the compensation system from its inception was never designed to provide for any real economic security or dignified living for the majority of the workers. Unlike pneumonia or tuberculosis, asbestos-related disease did not affect labor recruitment or productivity in the short term because of their long latency. Asbestosis can appear even 30 years after coming into contact with asbestos fibers. Though the mining corporations and their state knew about the dangers associated with asbestos, surveillance of the health of the majority of asbestos miners thus did not figure in the apartheid government's agenda. In the 21st century, we need to find solutions that are not only cost-effective, but also sustainable. They have to take into account the interest of local communities and future generations. Honorable Chair, those who came before us deferred the environment and health costs associated with mining, and we now have to pay these costs. Are we going to do the same to future generations? If we do, their problems are likely to be far more severe than ours because the effects are cumulative, and in the future, once mining is on the wane, the funds to address the problem might not be readily available. In this regard, we can but endorse the resolution of the African National Congress 2012 Policy Conference, which stated that mining should create safe and decent work, and mineral extraction should not compromise local communities, the environment, or future generations. We also believe that the principle of polluter pays must be entrenched, and a strong and incorruptible regulatory framework must be implemented. We cannot continue to let society bear the cost of profits for a few corporations. I thank you.
Honorable Deputy.
Deputy Chairperson, thank you very much, and also can I take the opportunity to thank honorable members for their positive contribution into this debate. There is just a confirmation that the African National Congress government is on track, and together we can indeed do more. Last week, the Department of Water Affairs was giving some awards to mining companies, municipalities, and very important stakeholders for excellent records in water conservation and water management, water demand management. So we want to applaud all those who participated in these programs, because we think that as mining is very important and we must take care of mining, and farming is also a very important sector that also needs water, we must just ensure that this trio is actually protected, maintained, and so on. But just to state a few facts of what has been debated here today, we say that following the decant of AMD to the surface in the West Rand and the inability of existing structures to manage its impact, the Interministerial Committee was convened to look into short, medium, and long-term solutions to AMD problems in the verse basins. A team of experts was appointed which mapped out short-term solutions and identified urgent need for the development of medium to long-term solutions. The recommended short-term solutions included pumping water to a level where it does not pose a threat to the environment and neutralizing the water before discharge to the streams, which is currently happening in the West Rand, and the program to implement this in the Central and East Rand basins are on track. It should be emphasized, ladies and gentlemen, that the discharge of neutralized water is an interim measure which cannot be sustained indefinitely, and that a long-term solution to remove all pollutants from the water is necessary to ensure long-term water security. A feasibility study is well advanced to identify the best options for the long term, as well as determining their financial implications and possible funding mechanisms. A recommendation of the team of experts and of the team working on the long-term feasibility study is that the reduction of the ingress of water into the underground workings is an important component of any long-term water management strategy. Studies and physical works to ensure this are being undertaken by the Council for Geoscience on behalf of the Department of Mineral Resources. This has included the construction of an ingress prevention canal in Florida, in Johannesburg, with other structures in the planning phase. Looking beyond the verse basins, the Council for Geoscience is compiling a national overview of acid mine drainage impacts, mapping AMD sources, pathways, and impacted communities and ecosystems on a catchment-by-catchment basis. In some cases, the acid mine drainage arises due to derelict and ownerless mines, like I said before. The Council for Geoscience is compiling an inventory of impacted areas and has recently piloted a process of permanently addressing AMD impacts due to abandoned underground coal mines in Emalahle and in Mpumalanga. This is a holistic solution which addresses subsidence and spontaneous combustion and aim to restore land and productive conditions. The issue that was raised about the state liability for rehabilitation, I can just mention that a report on the estimated state liability for rehabilitation of derelict and ownerless mines has been completed by actuarial scientists. A report confirms the need for the state support for the rehabilitation work. I must say that, as members would know, that we are busy with some amendments to the MPRDA, that the department, in collaboration with the Department of Environmental Affairs, the Department of Water Affairs, and an interdepartmental project implementation committee, are busy with the discussions of matters for alignment of and taking forward the integrated licensing system. Legislation and authorization by 3 departments are busy, we're busy looking into that. So the impact of integrating of license systems is quite huge, as is debated now in the public domain. Just some issues that I think we must travel together on is just to take this trip that has been debated here, that over 100 years of experience and expertise in mining has actually put South Africa into a very prominent position internationally, where we are called upon to advise, to to help others to come to where we are in terms of mining. It's a huge responsibility, but also we should never forget that this experience has got all the issues that I mentioned before. Also, we would also know, members, that over the 100 years of struggle by the African National Congress to improve the lives of people, this has gone also with mining and also the issue of over 100 years of land dispossession. So these trios that we're talking about has got also an impact, and there is a beautiful quotation by Schalkwyk that I will not maybe have the opportunity to read here, that talks about over 100 years of mine workers who have suffered because of unhealthy conditions that they work under. So our resolve, and that we want to all progressive South Africans to ensure that we change South Africa for the better using this endowment of mining. So 3 things just in conclusion, or as I conclude, is just to ensure that one of those that is very important is environmental restoration, and that the programs that we deal with must be escalated. In the Transformation Charter, we also speak about concurrent rehabilitation, so that we don't have to wait for another 100 years and go back to restore to correct the damage. As we mine, we must continue to rehabilitate. And there are companies that are doing it very well in this country, and others are really doing badly. The level of illegal mining is rising in the country, as you know, and that is because of some of the open shafts that are left and the dumps that are all over the country. So the sooner we deal with those issues, then we'll be able to even reduce this. One of the members has actually mentioned here that environmental restoration has got a job-creating effect, and we have actually done that where over 200 jobs were created with 13 projects that we have implemented in this financial year. But also the issue that is very important is that I have mentioned is the health and safety of mine workers and the communities, their families included, like it has been mentioned in the asbestos cases. I've been dealing with a very difficult case in Kuruman, and there's also such a case in Limpopo, where the level of asbestosis is very high. We have been having discussions with the people who went to fetch money in the name of those people who suffer of asbestosis and so on, but the money is not reaching those. We have been in discussion with the Master of the High Court to ensure that the trusts, for instance, like the Asbestos Relief Trust, that is sitting with millions, that is supposed to deal with this scourge in the Northern Cape and Limpopo, reach those people. So this case will give report as we continue. There are also very large cases of silicosis in the country due to gold mining that has been happening. So in the program that we speak about that says within the 6 months we should be having a clear understanding of the issue of ex-mine workers. Because the laws of this country provides actually that ex-mine workers are entitled to free medical benefit examination every 2 years. It's a matter that we are very determined, and I'm dealing with this directly. The question that we should be able to deal with about economic development as well, with the impressive endowment that we have, is to ensure that we also contribute towards dealing with the challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. In other words, we've got all this in our hands. It's for us to work together to ensure that we do a proper turnaround for this economy. The PAICC, under the President Jacob Zuma, is busy with a very impressive infrastructure rollout program to ensure that we unlock the bottlenecks within the economy. I must also just mention that our mining and especially beneficiation strategy that was approved by Cabinet is on track. We just have to ensure that we accelerate that. For instance, the best technology of coal to liquids that has been developed by Sasol is actually exported all over. The Americans are using it. Sasol is going all over with this technology that was developed here in South Africa. So with the abundance of coal that we have, we should be able to ensure that we also work towards energy sufficiency, because our input for electricity is mainly coal, as you know. But also one of the opportunities that we have is the one that deals with platinum. We produce over 80% of platinum in the country. Not only with beneficiation for auto catalytic converters, But with hydrogen and fuel cells, we should be able to ensure that there is energy in the country. We should be rolling out, if things go according to our plan, in the first quarter of 2014, some rural electrification using hydrogen fuel cells. Manganese, in terms of the steel-making process, is the hardener that makes the steel hard. I was in a certain place where they said South Africa possesses 80% of the world Viagra in steel-making processes. So that is the manganese they are talking about. Now, one of the game changers that we need to just ensure that we handle with care is the issue of the Karoo gas that we are busy trying to look into exploration, hydraulic fracturing, and that we become responsible here. We want to work together with the environmentalists so that there is no unnecessary sensation out of these economic spin-offs, because America today is turning around its economy using the gas that we find in the Karoo. You see, if the figures that they are talking about of 50 TCF are anything to go by, members must be able to know that out of this we should be able to have about 50 more gases out of the 50 TCFs that they are talking about. Now, lastly, 2014 is very critical for mining transformation as per the mining charter, the stabilization and best practice opportunities that are abound. So the opportunity that is there for all of us is that forward ever and backwards never. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, that concludes the debate. And the business of the day. You are requested to remain standing until the procession is out. The House is adjourned.